Hi, friend. I'm Megan, and I could not be more excited to welcome you to my channel. Welcome to Spiritual Real Talk. Spiritual Real Talk is this phrase that came to me years and years ago when I was first really clarifying how I wanted to teach meditation, how I wanted to share the tools that I've immersed myself in over the last 14 years. And what I realized was that I had a real problem with Instagram inspiration. So we all know what that is. You're scrolling through and you see some epic quote from Rumi that has lasted for thousands of years. And it sounds so great, doesn't it? And you listen to it and you hear it in your mind and you double tap on it and then you keep scrolling. And weeks, months, years later, a moment arrives in your life where you probably really need the wisdom from that quote that you saw, that you double tapped on, that really touched your heart. And it's nowhere to be found because it stayed here at that level of your mind, because it didn't turn into a new habit, a new practice, a new way of thinking or being. It didn't land past that level of your mind, your intellect, which happens all the time. We hear the great thing. We say, oh, that's amazing. I'm so inspired. I want to do that. And then we keep moving and it floats by us. I've always been so passionate about taking the timeless teachings that I have had so much privileged access to because of the work that I've done and the world's leading thought leaders that I have had access to learn from, to grow from, to evolve as a result of doing work with, and take those teachings, translate them through my own lens, through my own life experiences, and share them in a way that's really digestible to your modern life, that's digestible, accessible, and maybe sometimes even a little bit entertaining, because all of this conversation, all of this personal development work also does not always have to be super boring. So you're going to get all of that here. I really want this to be a place where like-minded individuals can land and where we can have a conversation, where we can engage, and I can share with you what has worked for me, what has helped me transform the parts of myself, the parts of my life that really weren't in alignment with who I really am. I started doing this work, as I've said, 14 years ago, and I will just tell you that I did not wake up like this. So a few things that I think, full disclosure, you should know. Number one, this was not always what I thought my life was going to look like. I studied music business in college. I went to college in Boston. I'm from tri-state area. So my dad was born and raised in the Bronx. My mom born and raised in New Jersey. All of that influence coming into this being that you see in front of you and has informed so much of how I see the world. I was raised mostly about 25 minutes outside of New York, outside of the city. So I absolutely had that mindset, that lovely sort of curb your enthusiasm, a little cynical, a lot sarcastic, a little hint, a little dash of jaded. And that's how I sort of saw the world until I started meditating, until I was able to look and see, oh, wow, actually some of that really charming, self-deprecating sarcasm, super charming, just so we're clear, but some of that sarcasm is actually masking something else that isn't really me. Some of that jaded cynicism isn't always that cute. And sometimes it's okay to be vulnerable and to lead with your heart, right? So there's nothing wrong with how we are right now. But I find, and again, I've been doing this for a long time, I find that there's always that layer to peel back where we can discover a little bit more and reveal to the world a little bit more who we authentically are. As I said, meditation, all of this life that I live now was really not a part of how I was raised. I went to college in Boston. I studied to work in the music industry, which is what I then did as soon as I graduated. I moved out to Los Angeles and was on the path to doing just that. On the path to a really successful career working in the music industry, which I absolutely loved. And it wasn't until my early I guess, mid-20s, don't do the math. We don't need to add 14 years or subtract or figure anything out here. Until that point, hadn't really paid too much attention to what my stress and what my life leading up to that point was maybe having an impact on when it came to my body. So in my mid-20s, I started having some really intense and unavoidable physical symptoms of the stress in my life. My gallbladder had to be removed because I had terrible gallstones from stress. I always joke that when your body starts asking you to remove the non-vital organs, it's not a sign that things are going well. It's not a sign that you're killing it. It's sort of a big stop sign and a big, like, let's look within and see what's not working here. I started having a lot of autoimmune physical symptoms from the stress, the systemic stress, and from a lot of unacknowledged emotional toxicity. The big trigger for me was when I learned, again, in that same period, mid-20s, I learned that my dad had a year to live from complications from a very long time of alcoholism. And it was that trigger that I think really activated in me a wake-up call of, wow, this is happening and I'm having a lot of feelings about it that I haven't so much acknowledged up until this point. And those feelings ran the range from anger, resentment to sad and love and devastated and everything in between. And it was at that point that I started diving in. I stopped trying to mask the symptoms of what was in dis-ease in my life, physically, but also mentally and emotionally. And I started to go within and, not to be too cliche, but started to kind of do that inner work where I was able to identify and mobilize and digest the emotional toxicity that I hadn't given much attention to. I'm a big believer that if you cannot acknowledge pain at that level of the mind, the heart, that emotional, subtle body, that energy will find a way to express itself. And it might be something that doesn't seem like that big of a deal, like I'm not sleeping so great. And it might be something like, hey, you need to get your gallbladder taken out. So hopefully you can learn from this, because I still wish I had it. I know it's a non-vital organ, but if we're being 100 here, I would still love to have it back. So let's do some work in this conversation so that you too can enjoy your gallbladder for a very long time to come, until the end of days. I had a huge pivot and life shift once I, in that time period, started meditating. I will say that at that point in our culture, in our society, meditation was not a thing. There were no apps, there were no studios, there was not the access to it that there is now. So when I tell you that at my therapist's request, I learned to meditate to help manage my stress better, when I tell you that I took that advice and went home and Googled wellness Southern California, please do not judge me, because again, meditation, not at the forefront of my mind or in society. And that Google search changed my life. I clicked on the first search result that came up, which was Deepak Chopra's wellness center, the Chopra Center, which at the time was in North San Diego County. And longer story, I'll do a whole episode on my journey getting there and certainly how I ended up working there. But long story short, I took a massive leap of faith and went down there, learned how to meditate, learned about Ayurveda. Again, we'll do a whole conversation on that. Learned yoga, learned how to have a relationship with my entire being. Learned how to connect with my body and what it needed and the sort of rhythms that I could be balancing. Learned about how to have a different relationship with my mind, which is what sparked my passion to then eventually quit my job and want to do that with all of you and at any opportunity that I'm given to, and a different relationship as well with my emotions and feelings. And when I say to you that that leap of faith changed not just the trajectory that I was on, but changed my entire perception of the world, it is not an exaggeration. That led me to wanting to share these teachings with as many people as I could. Once you, I think, experience transformation in the way that I did, it's really hard not to want to share it and not to want to give other people the access to these things that you value so much. And so I took another leap of faith, lots of jumping in this story. I took another leap of faith and quit my job in the music industry and ended up getting a job working for Deepak. Again, I'll tell you, that'll be a whole episode on like synchronicity and the magic of identifying not just what you want, but why you want it, and how you can put yourself in a position so that the universe can just pick you up and drop you into the absolute best version of whatever that desire is that you have. And that was 14 years ago, right? So I've been doing this work with, as I mentioned, the world's like most badass teachers, whether it's Wayne Dyer, whether it's Eckhart Tolle, whether it's Sally Kempton. I have just been so blessed to have access to minds that are incredible translations of these teachings that have been around for, again, thousands and thousands of years for a reason. And that is what I am here to dive in and share with you. I want this, as I said, to be really collaborative. So I want to know what you want to know. I want to know what you're struggling with and where I can lean in and share some tools, share some ways that you might be able to create a different relationship, whether it's with your thoughts or with your feelings. So much of how you experience the world, the majority of it, I would say, rests with how you are thinking about it, how you are interacting with the thoughts in your mind, and the power that you are giving them. I remember so vividly the first time that I ever heard from Deepak that I was not my thoughts, right? So I'm going to extend that same reminder to you. You are not your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. You do not have to believe every single thought you have. Every thought does not need to become the next word you speak, the next action you take, the next thing you buy or date or say yes or no to or click on. Every thought doesn't have to get a chance to be in the driver's seat of your life. And so we'll do a lot of these episodes around how to change that relationship with your thoughts and how to leverage the really good ones, because we all have such good thoughts sometimes, don't we? How do you leverage those and really empower all of it that already resides within you to amplify who you really are and co-create with this amazing world around you the reality that you want to be experiencing? I cannot wait to be in this with you, to connect with all of you. So please, please comment on what you want to hear more about, whether it's navigating things in your life, specifically navigating your mind, your heart, manifesting. I want to get into all of it, and I want to get into the things especially that you're feeling really activated and inspired by. So please, please comment, say what's up. Tell me your name. Tell me where you're listening from. Let me know what you want to hear about. And please subscribe so that you get a notification every week when we drop this next video of Spiritual Real Talk. And until then, I am sending you so much love, and I can't wait to dive into this with you. Thanks for being here.